The Abrahamic faiths of Islam, Christianity, and Judaism often demonize African and Yoruba spiritual practices. These groups view traditional African beliefs as primitive or savage. Instead of learning about African traditions, both Christians and Muslims said these practices were evil. They called African gods and spirits demons, and they said African people had to give up their ways and follow these better, quote-unquote, foreign religions. While people often associate idol worship, divination, ancestor worship, and human sacrifice with Africa, these things can also be found within all three Abrahamic traditions as well. Whether it be Moses raising the bronze serpent and the Jews kneeling before it, Christians praying to the cross, Jews praying or directing their prayers to the Western Wall, or Islam kissing and praying towards a stone, all these are examples show idol worship which African religions are condemned for. When you look at the three Abrahamic traditions, all you see is contradictions. The practice of divination, often condemned by these three faiths, can also be found in these faiths. Divination, the practice of seeking knowledge of the future or the unknown, has a complex history within the Abrahamic religions. While some forms of divination are explicitly condemned in their scriptures, others are considered permissible, often within specific contexts like prayer, revelation, or religious rituals. Whether it's geomancy in Islam or Urim and Thummim, or casting lots in both Christianity and Judaism, divination is found throughout these various Abrahamic traditions. Geomancy, also known as sand divination, or the science of sand, is a form of divination practiced in both the pre-Islamic and Islamic world that involves interpreting markings on the ground, typically made in sand or soil. It is often confused as astrological practice, but it is not, as it does not involve the study of celestial bodies. Geomancy has historical roots and has been practiced in various cultures, including Islamic societies. Geomancy was introduced into West European life during the 11th century CE when numerous Arabic texts were translated. It became associated with prominent figures in the occult sciences, including Bernardus Silvestris, Roger Bacon, Albertus Magnus, Cornelius Agrippa, and Robert Flood. Prophet Idris, an ancient figure in Islam, is considered the founder of sand divination. His work focused on precise star movements and complex calculations. His contributions laid the groundwork for philosophy and science, influencing later scholars. The first step is usually called casting or sewing the points. In this step, the geomancer draws 16 lines of points from right to left. The 16 lines sounds familiar to the 16 odus found within Ifa, the Yoruba spiritual practice. In nearly all Islamic lands, geomancy and related methods of divination are still practiced. They are used to make decisions and are an important part of many Muslim communities. The art and practice of divination is also found within the Torah and Bible. The Urim and Thummim, Hebrew words for lights and perfections, were a pair of objects, traditionally stones, used by the high priest in ancient Israel for divination and seeking divine guidance. They were placed within the breastplate that was part of the priestly attire worn when the high priest entered the Holy of Holies. The specific nature of the Urim and Thummim is not described in the Bible or Torah, and their purpose is subject to debate, with some interpreting them as a form of Lot oracle and others as a means of receiving divine messages through a miraculous sign. In Mormonism, the Urim and Thummim are seen as instruments used for translation and receiving revelation, similar to the spectacles used by Joseph Smith to translate the Book of Mormon. The Urim and Thummim have also been interpreted in various other traditions and by scholars, with some associating them with the tablets of destiny from Babylonian mythology. In the Book of Acts, Peter suggests to the faithful believers assembled after Jesus' ascension that they be the ones who choose the 12th disciple. In Acts chapter 1, verse 26, it says, "They cast lots, and the lot fell on Matthias." People often forget that Jewish communities were influenced by Egyptian, Babylonian, Persian, and Hellenistic cultures. They created a faith which drew inspiration from the faiths they came into contact with. Coincidentally, a lot of the Kabbalah has incredible resemblance to older traditions, such as Gnosticism and Neoplatonism. So when you read in Judges about Jephthah sacrificing his daughter as a burnt offering to Yahweh, it shouldn't be strange. The Jews simply adopted a practice they've seen around. After all Canaanite groups often offered child sacrifices to their gods. And the Jews were just another Canaanite people who worshipped a different god, Yahweh. The Jew and Christian who claims that God condemns human sacrifice must explain the contradictions in their books. For example, in Isaiah chapter 53 verse 4, the prophet mentions how the suffering servant took up our pain and bore our suffering. This is exactly what the New Testament teaches about Jesus' sacrificial death on the cross, in that he bore the punishment for mankind's sins in Hebrews chapter 9 verse 28. And no matter how beautiful you make the story of Jesus dying on the cross for human sins sound, he is literally the definition of a human sacrifice. By the way, before we move on, I fully believe that Jesus is the Orisa Eshu within Ifa, but I'll save that for another video. Let's get back to Jephthah sacrificing his daughter for a second. Because the fact that Jephthah sacrificed his daughter, and that no one stopped him, although there were 2 months time period until the final sacrifice, means that at that time human sacrifice was acceptable among the Jews, which is strengthened by the fact that no one blamed Jephthah for sacrificing his daughter. Jews and Christians will say that he kept his vow to God as a promise for God helping him defeat the Ammonites. Yet these same people will also condemn the Yoruba story of Moremi, who sacrificed her only son, Oluwarogbo, as part of a pledge she made to save her people, Ile Ife, from the raids of the Ugbo people. The river god demanded this sacrifice in exchange for the knowledge to defeat the Ugbo. According to the story, the sacrifice of Oluwarogbo grieved Moremi and the entire kingdom of Ife, but she honored her pledge. One account describes Moremi's sacrifice as a testament to her bravery and selflessness, and the people honored her by making her immortal in their traditions. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not arguing that human sacrifice is good, which by the way was ended by Yoruba people before the arrival of Europeans. Rather, I am merely pointing out the hypocrisy and contradictions within the Abrahamic traditions. And like I said, Yoruba ended the practice of human sacrifice, who were largely war prisoners and criminals, before the arrival of Europeans. Human sacrifice were replaced by animals. Odus are in Ifa that condemned the practice of human sacrifices, by the way, in case anyone wants to challenge me. Last but not least, ancestor worship. Catholics and other Orthodox communities believe in the communion of saints, which includes praying for the deceased to God and seeking their intercession in prayer. They believe their prayers are particularly effective in interceding with God on behalf of the living. This practice is rooted in the belief that the dead in heaven are closer to God and have a better understanding of His will, making their prayers more potent. The concept of intercession, where individuals ask for the prayers or blessings of others, is also recognized in Islam. While it's not about a collective communion, Muslims often seek the intercession of prophets, saints, and even angels. Sufism, a mystical branch of Islam, places a significant emphasis on the role of saints, who are believed to have direct access to God and can intercede on behalf of others. But these same people who pray and venerate their ancestors will turn to you and will tell you, the African, to not venerate and pray to yours. Abrahamic religion has been the bane of society, preaching despise against any god that isn't their own deity, one that was created according to their own petty image, labeling everybody as pagans or heretics if they disagree, and painting their cultures with all sorts of slanders and stigmas. Such attitude taken to its extreme culminates on the insanity of modern evangelicals with their nonsensical and unconceivable message about salvation, which they call gospel, and the intellectual paralysis of fundamentalist Muslims with their hatred for any superior form of spirituality or arts. For thousands of years, African people had their own spiritual beliefs, rituals, and ways of understanding the world. These beliefs were passed down from generation to generation through stories, songs, dances, and traditions. African spirituality was deeply connected to nature, the ancestors, and the spirit world. Guys, thanks for watching the video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.